We're so glad that you've tuned in to Pardon the Mess. We're parents just like you, doing our best to raise kids who will love and follow Christ. We hope you will join us and our guests each week for honest conversations about the good, bad, and ugly of raising kids. There's no perfect parents, just a perfect God who stands ready to pardon our mess and guide us on the most challenging yet rewarding journey, parenting. Hey guys, this is Cynthia Yanoff. I'm so glad you're here with us today for Pardon the Mess. We've got a great podcast for you. And sitting with me today is Chip Waggoner. And Chip is the traffic anchor for Fox 4 News in the Metroplex, so you may know his voice. And then with him also is his son, Benjamin, who is going to be a senior in high school. Hey guys.
Hi. Hello. Thanks for having us.
I'm so glad you're here today. Are we ready for this?
Oh, yeah.
Ready to go.
It's going to be good. I'm so excited about what your message is and what you have to share with our listeners today, because I think that there's a lot of times in life, especially as parents, that the blueprint didn't quite go how we thought it was going to, or difficulties came along, or challenges that are tough, and it's not what we expected. But you guys have been such an example to those of us who have had the opportunity to watch you over the years of just God's faithfulness and his redemption. And this morning I was walking around our house, and it was so interesting because I kept humming "Great Is Thy Faithfulness," that hymn. And I was like, why am I humming this? Because I'm usually like humming some boy band because I have teenagers in my house. Sure. And I was like, why is this with me? And it came to me that that's kind of the message, a story I take from watching your family, just the Lord's faithfulness, but all I have needed, thy hand hath provided. And I think y'all have lived that so well. And so thank you for that, first of all. I've just been on the front row to watch y'all, and you're just awesome. And I can't wait for our listeners to hear it. So let's hit it. Are we ready?
Okay, ready.
Okay, I'm going to let Chip start us off and just tell us a little bit about when you and Wendy, your wife, were pregnant with your first kiddo with Benjamin, who's sitting here, and when you realized that there may be some issues with the pregnancy. And then also, for those that don't know you, most people that hear this will not know you or have seen you. What did that mean, and what does that look like today for Benjamin?
Sure. So backstory on Benjamin. We were 3 months along in the pregnancy when Wendy's doctor said that she seemed to be further along than she really was, and it was alarming to her, so she wanted us to go to a specialist. And when we went to that specialist, they immediately were able to tell that there was something wrong in the formation of Benjamin in the womb. They weren't able to elaborate at that time, but it did scare us quite a bit. And the next thing we knew, my wife was on a table, and they were doing what's called an amniocentesis, which is a very painful procedure where they are actually going and pulling part of the amniotic fluid out and taking a look at it to see what's going on inside.
And that can be dangerous too, right, in a pregnancy?
It sure can be. Right. The things that came back that were positive was that there wasn't anything that was unusual as far as chromosomal balances are concerned. So that was a plus. The next thing that they were able to tell us was that he was XY, which means that he was going to be a boy. So we knew at 3 months that we were going to have a son. But we also were now aware that when he was going to be born, there was going to be something unique that would have to be taken care of at birth.
Sure.
So we handled that fine. I figured, at that point that we were going to be okay. God had us in his hand, and this is going to be great. We just went right along through the rest of the pregnancy. Every month they were taking pictures. They were doing, all the stuff that they do, MRIs right. and everything else. Right. About 2 weeks before Benjamin was born, they wanted us to go over to Parkland Children's area and do what's called an in utero MRI. And the procedure is unique. So she goes into the tube, and they're actually looking through her and at Benjamin. And they hadn't really done anything like that up to that point. The head technician came in and started talking to us, and this was something that was out of school. She started to tell us everything that she saw about this, not letting the doctors do it. She told us that there was only that the bottom part of Benjamin's body looked unbelievably terrible. Everything in his gut looked like scrambled eggs. They said they could only find one kidney. And they said that they didn't care that our doctors had told us that he was going to be a boy. They couldn't find anything male about him anywhere. And that if she was us, that she would go up to a state up north and abort the baby.
Wow.
And
what'd you do with that news? What do you do at that point, Chip?
so we went and got comfort food at Snuffers.
And I cannot fault you for that.
But I can tell you, as soon as we went and talked to the specialist, and he was telling us, okay, this is something that she's seeing, and she shouldn't have said anything. XY means XY. Even if it's not in the right place, everything is there. It just might have to be put in the right spot. Having one kidney, you can survive that. But then his last comment was, this is not going to be easy. And the lady is right that if you wanted to go ahead and end this, you could do so by going out of state.
What was your initial thought to that?
And
as
so,
a Christian and a believer?
Yeah. And so as a believer, I'd love to be able to tell you that I was like, no, that's not what we're doing. But for about a fraction of a second, I remember immediately thinking to myself, yes, that's exactly what we need to do, because this life for Benjamin would be just unbelievably hard, and he could be painful, and even if he survives all this, he's probably not going to be like in a normal state, and people are going to make fun of him, and then he'll just have years of just being all picked on, and maybe just develop like some mental condition that's awful on top of everything else. And for his own good, we need to just go ahead and end this now, so he can just go straight to being with Jesus and just not even go anywhere into the realm of actually bringing him into this world.
Which is honest. I mean, honest response. I love that about you, Chip.
And I sat there and I just am like, well, wait a minute. God says that he's going to take all things and he's going to work it together for his good. And that he's for us. He's not against us. And though this might not have been the path that I want to go down, this is the path that God needs me to go down. And that this isn't about me. It's not about me playing God. It's not me about what I want. It's about me letting go and saying, all right, Lord, I can't wait to see how you are going to bless this. And I'm looking forward to this front row seat to watch you in creating a miracle throughout the life of this child.
I have goosebumps. And, Chip, when you say that, it just reminds me that when I was going through something really difficult a couple of years ago with a child, I remember someone saying, your faith is really built when you have no chance, nothing good can happen unless the Lord steps in. Otherwise, you're out of luck. And that's where you were. I mean, you needed the Lord to step in, or there's just no chance here.
Right. So after that meeting, we did go eat more Snuffers.
Okay.
And then after that, we got to work. And we had, again, 2 weeks to get prepared. And we went and got all the specialists that we could think of. We got a guy named Dr. Kenneth Shapiro, who is a neurologist. You would know him actually anywhere where you're probably listening to this podcast. Years ago, there were these twins that were born in Egypt, conjoined at the head. And this is the doctor that was able to successfully bring them apart. And they're both still alive, to my knowledge, and prospering. So we got him on our team. We got a guy named David Ewald on our team. He is a urologist. We got Jay Roden, who is a pediatric surgeon on our team. And Jay Roden took extra time with us, and actually specifically with me. And he took me into his office one day and started showing me pictures of all kinds of abnormal births so that I would be able to start to see this, absorb this, know that it's okay, and basically was preparing my brain to be able to be ready for when Benjamin was born, so that when he came out and into this world taking his first breath, I'm able to go, this is my son, and I love him. Mm-hmm. There is a terrible disconnect, unfortunately, especially amongst males, where if they see something that is not normal, they, in general, will have a freak out mode. Oh, this can't be mine. This is bad. No.
You mean something that's not normal, like with their child?
Sure.
Okay.
Like maybe born with a cleft palate.
Okay.
Maybe born with some other kind of abnormality. Oh,
yeah.
And they'll disconnect. So it was great to know that this was going on. The other big thing that Dr. Roden told us before Benjamin was born was, he said, don't treat him any different than you would anybody else. This condition that he will be born in is his normal. He doesn't know what it's like to walk in your shoes. Mm-hmm. He doesn't know what it's like to walk in, the shoes of Adrian Beltre, Benjamin's favorite baseball player. He doesn't know those kind of things. Mm-hmm. And so this is his normal. Mm-hmm. Treat him normally. Don't put him in a box. And just see what happens.
Wow.
And so there we were with just a few days to go. We got all our specialists in place, and now it's just a matter of waiting for him to be born. I remember having big prayer time with our small group and
with our church,
our church in general.
I was going to interject that too, if I could. Benjamin's one of the few kids that I've prayed for before they were born, besides my own. And I remember the day you were born, our preacher rushed in right before the sermon, because he had been at the hospital with your parents. And he said, we're going to stop right now and we're going to pray for this family, because we're not sure if Benjamin's going to make it or not, but we are going to pray right now for the Lord's very best for him. And we did that. And it still sticks with me today. Yeah. And so to be born, who's born with a huge Dallas congregation praying over you amongst people all over the world. I'm sure that y'all knew your story. But so Benjamin's born, and here he is, healthy. Tell us a little bit about what happens once he's born and how we get to kind of here, and then we'll let him talk some.
Sure, yeah. He had what's called an omphalocele that was unbelievably big, and then other challenges that they all lump into one term called coachial exstrophy. So some of the things he had unusual was that there were some things that were born on the outside of his body that should not have been, excuse me. And then the other thing is that he should have had flesh that formed the abdominal wall at the end of the first trimester. Well, that flesh got trapped in his tailbone area. So Benjamin, in the end of his lumbar area, has a tethered cord, is what they call it. So that fatty mass is all tied up in his spinal column, and it restricts the sensations that he has in the lower extreme of his body.
Okay.
So those are some of the things he had that weren't right. So first thing right out of the chute, he goes into surgery. They do some things to get him in a better place. And he was in the NICU unit for about a week. Then they gave him to us, and we went home. What do we do? This is crazy. Mm-hmm. 3 months later, he had his neck surgery, and that included breaking his pelvis. His pelvis was wide open like this, so the joints were way out wide. So even if we wanted to see if he had a chance to walk, there'd be no way. Mm-hmm. He'd look like a bad John Wayne, I tell you. Duh. It just wouldn't work. And he was in a body cast from his ankles to his chest for 3 months. And then he started playing catch up on rolling over, learning how to walk. They put some braces on him. He looked like Iron Man before Iron Man was big. And he just continued to blow people away because he just exuded pure joy in all circumstances. And just absolutely amazing. And we went through many more surgeries after that, and then got to a point where he started remembering things. So I guess I'll be quiet and let him talk a little bit.
Benjamin, how many surgeries have you had? Do you know? Do you have a tally?
17, probably.
As many as he is years old. Yeah. 17 to 20, somewhere in that range. Well, there's some little
18,
procedures that
maybe.
Yeah, the last
I don't,
like an
I don't
hour
count
and-
those.
Okay, yeah.
I
those
mean,
are
I'm
kinda
talking
easy.
like big surgeries, like what
Okay.
we just had recently.
Then you're right.
Not the
Right.
If
I'm-
there were those, we'd be up to like 30.
I wish everybody could see your face as your dad's sitting here talking. You just have this sweet smile and appearance and joy in him that is really, it's just so inspiring. But okay, here's what we want to know, Benjamin. We want you to talk a little bit. Tell me about your childhood. What do you remember? Does it seem like you had a normal childhood for what you know?
From what I know,
Yeah.
yes. I never really felt any different. I guess that's because I was really lucky with the neighborhood I was put in of Lake Highlands, specifically White Rock. I'm trying to think here because I didn't really remember. I don't really remember anything
Yeah.
until about kindergarten,
Mm-hmm.
and then after that, the surgeries and stuff that came with them. But I do remember all of the friends that I had, that I made, and they treated me as if I was just like them. And so because of that, I never really like all the stuff with my legs just looking a little weird and being different and all that stuff was just kind of put to the wayside, which, I mean, that was perfect for me.
That's a blessing.
Yeah, it really was. It's part of what Dad was talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, it was one of the things that we were praying about specifically. Lord, lead us to an area where people are going to be able to see past what's obvious about Benjamin and truly see him for who he was. And we were truly blessed that
Which
way,
goes-
and God answered that prayer.
It goes back to kind of what you said early on when you had that snap moment of like, what's his life going to look like? Well, people make fun of him. And you just see the Lord's provision early on of just putting kids and people in his place.
Best
in the
one,
path.
yeah. First day.
Yeah, I was about to say, when is that?
Yeah. First day, the way our schedules were lined up, I could pick up. And that's what I did for all of elementary. I got to at least pick up the kids, because I go to work really early in the morning. Never can really be a part of the morning routine. Anyway, so here we are. I'm standing there waiting for Benjamin, and I'm apprehensive. I mean, I'm just a little bit nervous about how did it go? What's his reaction going to be like? He comes out the door. He sees me. He's beaming. You ever see any pictures of when he was walking with his braces, at his best when he was young? It's just a really neat thing to watch. And as I'm sitting there with my arms wide open like this, a kid caught my eye that was going to hug his mom behind him. And as Benjamin's walking towards me, all this kid is doing is staring at Benjamin. And I'm thinking, uh-oh, here we go. Ben, hey, what's wrong with that kid? Why?
Yeah.
And the words out of John O's mouth, I'll never forget, was, "Hey, Mom, you see the braces that kid has on? Those are so cool. Can I have some?"
What a blessing.
Just awesome.
And is that a kiddo that stayed in your life? Do you still know him?
He's still around.
Yeah.
He's a
Yeah.
He's a pretty
Jacked.
big time person
Yeah.
on the high school football team now.
Yeah.
So Benjamin, tell us a little bit, like, for people who don't know you, what does your life look like today? Or do you spend most of your time with braces or crutches or more in a wheelchair? Can you drive? Just give people a feel for what your day in and day out is.
Whenever I'm at home, I'm on my crutches for pretty much the whole time, and that's what it's been since I had that. Since I had the first leg surgery that I can remember, where it was like the second body cast, and I was about 12 years old.
So when you say that you spend most of your time with crutches at home, and then what about at school and that type of thing?
School and anything that has to do with like just long distance stuff, always I'm gonna be in my wheelchair.
Okay.
For the most part. Yeah, that's kind of how everything rolls. So
let me ask you a really practical question. You have the opportunity to teach a lot of people that don't know. What's helpful to you if I'm trying to raise kids and I want the kid that the first day of kindergarten is going to encourage you, and we all want that kiddo that knows how to help others that have some sort of challenge. And so you educate us a little bit. If let's say you're in your wheelchair at school or you're at the mall or whatever, how do we handle it correctly? Do we help? Do we hold doors? Do we not hold doors? Do we say something? Do we not? Can you just kind of give us a little idea of what helps you and what doesn't?
I love this question. Nobody's ever asked me this question ever. And I was reading the script earlier, and I was like, oh my goodness, I would love to answer this one. So, yeah, it is true. Lots of people don't really understand what they need to do to help. Now, let me start off by saying this. If whenever you're helping somebody and like, hey, do you need any help or anything like that, nothing is wrong with that in any kind of way at all. I'm like, but what I'm about to say is just a little bit like, oh, okay. But just know that it's not wrong, but that's the point, is that sometimes people kind of judge me as if I am so disabled I really can't do anything for just the simplest things like opening the door.
Okay.
So now I'm saying that in my perspective. In other kids' perspective, I might have to speak for them too, because there are others, unlike me, who really just don't have the arm strength to really open doors themselves or do a lot of things themselves, which is something I am fortunate to have.
So if you're someone who doesn't know either direction, if I don't know you and I see you and I don't know what kind of help, if I say something like, hey man, is there a way I can help you or do you need anything? Is that helpful to you?
Oh yeah. Asking is great.
What about our words, Benjamin? Like if one of our kiddos walks in and meets you or whatever, would you prefer them to say at some point as they get to know you, like, hey, what's going on here? What are the challenges you face? Or how long have you dealt with this? Or would you rather people act like, I'm just any other kid. Let's not talk about it every time I show up.
I would, as I've gotten older, I've much more preferred the second method. When I was younger, I really did not mind the first.
You didn't mind talking more about it and explaining it,
Yes.
that kind of thing.
It's just weird, though. I guess it's because now that I've gotten older and I know the people around me pretty much for, like, the most part, and then there's some of those kids at school that still, like, they're still seeing me for the first time because that's how high school works.
Sure.
And they're talking to me as if I was in kindergarten again, like, and when I try to go back to that, I'm like, I try to make it as really straightforward, as simple as possible, just saying, one of the biggest questions is, hey, what happened? Is like, I hope you walk again. I'm like, oh, this is just the way I was born. This is like the braces. That's not a fake leg. There's a real leg underneath. That's just there to help me. Like I'm speaking in my little teenager voice, just like, just being just like a teenager, like everybody else is, because that's how I am. That's how I've been treated for all these years. And so that's a big thing that I would say to anybody is, just like I've been treated by my friends at Lake Highlands, just whenever you see a kid in a wheelchair, they're going to want to be on the playground playing just as much as you. But unlike me, there are most that won't have that opportunity to get on the playground, go on the swing and do anything like that. To that, I would say it would be awesome if the kids that were there, instead of going over, like being on the playground set, coming over here, being with this kid, and just having a ball, literally, like let's get a ball and let's throw it around to each other.
Yeah. And I think inclusion's important.
Yeah.
So if you can get out of yourself, and this is asking a lot from your kid, to try to think about what would you feel like if you were in this person's shoes. Would you think it'd be cool to go ahead and go run and play with all your other friends, or maybe spend some time, have people spend some time playing ball with you, and just, even though you have to be stationary, make it work. And I think just putting those thoughts in kids' heads, they start to think about, I would rather be that.
I like that.
And encouraging them that way.
Okay, I'm going to ask you another question. I think it's a hard one that I'm going to throw out there, and either one of you can answer or we can not. But when someone says, my friend Benjamin, and they're talking about him, and they say he's disabled or he has a handicap, or is there a right word for that and a wrong word when people are trying to speak about others that might have a handicap or disability? What's the right or wrong word? Or do we not like any word in particular, or do we use challenges? But I just know people want to do it right. And I'm just curious what either one of you would say to that.
Yeah, that is a good question. I've personally never been offended by somebody saying that I'm disabled.
Okay.
But what I would like is somebody saying the kid is disabled, but he's still just like you. He's not. He's still gonna play like you. He's just another teenager. He's just another kid, just like you, who wants to hang out and do all sorts of games, whether it's actual physical activities where it's throwing the ball or it's sitting down with a video game controller and playing Mario Kart or something.
Yeah.
Every one of us has challenges, and some of them are visible from the outside, but most of us have them visible from the inside. And
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I love your honesty in that. I think we could preach a sermon on that someday, but just inclusion and just wanting to be one of the crowd.
Yeah.
But okay, I have another follow-up question. Go ahead.
Wait, can I finish up?
Please.
Just like, if I'm honest, maybe just when somebody's talking about me, maybe it's possible just to not say that I'm handicapped, because that's going to be part of my personality either way, but that's not, my circumstance does not define who I am. My circumstance is defined by what decisions I make and how my attitude is about everything I do. Nothing about the physical, like just outside, this is what I look like.
Yeah, but your circumstance is based on who
God is.
And whose you are.
whose you are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Amen.
who I am.
Woo, have goosebumps, Benjamin.
Yeah.
Chip, so for parents that are going to, and lots of us have or will have kids that things aren't exactly what we wanted them to look like, or they're a little trickier or a little different, tell us a couple things. One, how did you and Wendy stay the course? Because being a parent is selfless at any given time, but you've had a lot of challenges and a lot of opportunities for faith. How did you stay the course?
I think when you anybody who's thinking about getting married that might be listening to this, you need to make sure that the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with is not only someone you're attracted to, but it is somebody that is your best friend. I mean, your true companion. And I talk to. This is going to be way too long of an answer.
That's okay. That's okay. We can always add it.
I think about the ring that I'm wearing on my hand, and inside the inscription on the ring, it says "My true companion" on it. And this is also not only a band that was given by my wife, but it was also something that is a reminder to us that God is the third part of our puzzle. It's a marriage of us, and the two have become one flesh, and through thick and thin, dadgummit, we're going to stay that way. And I think that a lot of people get into marriage a little bit haphazardly, and when there's the phrase "for better or for worse" in there, it's not just for better or for better. It's for worse. Yeah. And so you need to be prepared for that. So when you're married to your best friend and you have God as the center of your life, it's a great foundation, because you can get rocked, and you will get rocked. Mm-hmm. We got rocked in a very big way with some really rough news that we didn't want to hear, that we had some frustrations about, and we had some questions about right off the bat. But we were able to stay the course because I think we had a firm foundation based in our faith, with God being the third strand in our cord, and it made it to where it wasn't easily broken. Mm-hmm. And so it gave us the opportunity to, again, start looking at things differently. Mm-hmm. In the way that in the challenges that were presented before us. Like I said earlier, I can't wait to see what God's going to do next.
Right. And so, I think there's lots of people that will listen to this that are going to face challenges with their kiddos, and it may not be on the significance maybe of Benjamin's, or maybe it's larger, but we all have friends that their kiddos have learning disabilities, mm-hmm. or we have friends whose kids were recently diagnosed with cancer, or different things. When you have those moments of I don't get it, God, what's your answer to that?
You have to stop, and you have to get yourself out of it. I get it. You're upset. You want what's best for your kid, and what you want and what you think you want is this awesome, pain-free, trouble-free. The kid becomes the superstar in whatever it is they want to do, valedictorian of their class, all those kind of things. Stop it. Stop it. God made your child for a specific purpose, to reach people for Christ that you can't reach. He's going to be uniquely gifted. She's going to be uniquely gifted to reach people for Christ that you won't be able to reach, that your pastor won't be able to reach, that your friends won't be able to reach. And if you remember to put that as the focus instead of, I want you to become the best baseball player on your team. I want you to get a college scholarship playing volleyball. I want you to, and you're living vicariously through and you're pressuring them towards that instead of the eternal, I think you're going to miss out. Let all that other stuff just happen. And take joy in all of those things. Take joy in the ability to be able to play volleyball well. That's great. And if something bigger happens out of that, that's terrific. But know that you're in God's hands, and He's going to prosper you in ways that you can't fathom. I am thrilled to have the honor to be able to be right here, right next to my son, and watching a miracle in progress in the way that that's happening. Amen. And it's the same with every other kid that's out there that's growing up. Oh, yeah. You as a parent have now the honor, and God has given you that honor to raise that child, and you're responsible for it. You're going to get, there's going to be a time when there's going to be a talk about that. But let's just focus on that. If you have been uniquely qualified to raise that kiddo, we didn't think so.
Right.
We're like, all this medical stuff and all these things going on. There's so much that we're just overwhelmed by. Okay, God, you say, and you've given me this, I'm going to do it. And so we're going to figure this out with you as our guide. Great. So I've had this honor of being here, watching him grow up, miracle in progress. And remember, you have doubts going into it. Look where he is right now. He's that close. Well, first of all, he can drive. That's awesome.
Yeah.
He's that close to becoming an Eagle Scout. That'll happen in the next few weeks.
Wow.
An Eagle Scout. Think about that. Let that sink in.
That's some determination, hard work.
Right. And I've gotten to watch all of this firsthand and just be able to glorify and praise God, knowing that He is reaching people for Christ. Because this world and everything that's going on around it, it's temporary. This stuff doesn't last very long. 15 minutes ago, I was his age.
Right.
And now here I am on the precipice of 50. In another 15 minutes, I'm going to be out of here.
Yeah.
And since it's not about here, it needs to be about the eternal. I'd rather be storing up treasures up there, reaching Christ, people for Christ, and watching and raising my kids up to do the same. Because that's what it's all about, being a light.
And preach. What I love, Chip, is that I think you have really put into words what we all need to remember is that when we start looking at all these things, these struggles, this or that, what about this? When we take ourselves out of the equation, it's not about me. When we take the me out of it and we put the Lord in charge of it and His ministry, look what He's done. And look at the blessing of being able, you have a faith story and Benjamin has a story that, a lot of us don't have, but you've seen and known God probably in ways that a lot of us haven't as well.
So, yeah, a lot of people would ask, especially after they find out about all this stuff going on, because I work a pretty tough shift in my job. And people that knew that about me would come up to me and say, dude, how are you doing this? You're spending weeks in the hospital while working. You're sleeping on a hospital bed. If you've ever slept on a hospital bed, that's not pretty.
I have.
Fun for the parents, for what they give you to sleep on. But how do you do that?
Yeah.
I've gotten to experience firsthand what it's like to have people praying for you. And when we were going through some of the craziest and toughest storms, and yet I've still got to carry on, be on the air, like everything's hunky-dory, while my heart is just breaking because my son's sitting in a hospital room, not allowed to eat or drink water for days and days on end, and he's persevering through all that. It's the power of prayer that is literally keeping me above the waves like a life preserver would be. No energy left. I am done. And yet, here comes the next report. Boom.
Yeah.
Here comes the next thing I got to do. Bam. And it is supernatural how wonderful it is to have people praying for you, and how humbling it is to be a recipient of prayer like that.
Right.
That literally is just carrying you along. So when I was a kid, I'm praying for you.
Yeah. No, and
Lord, please pray for my grandma to get better, and for my dog that got fleas today. And I'm not trying to belittle all those kind of things, but be really sincere about what you're praying about. God cares. God gave us prayer as an opportunity to be an intercedent for somebody.
That's right.
To literally lift them up and sustain them through difficult times. And that's I guess what I want to try to get across.
Your experience. And when we went through the foster care journey with our little one that we recently were blessed to be able to adopt, I remember in some really hard times when we thought we were going to lose him, people would say, I'm praying for you. And I learned a lesson during that time. And now if I tell someone I'm praying for him, they have got my word and the Lord's word. I'm praying for you. And because I know so many people faithfully prayed for my family. And like you're saying, that there's just a ministry right there of just being faithful in your prayer life for people that need that.
Yeah. And here's something more on that prayer life thing. I don't think it's a bad thing to ask, hey, what can I specifically pray for? Mm-hmm. And something else, when somebody else is actually opening up their heart to you, take that into complete confidence, and then pray about specifically that. You don't need to go and tell 7,500 people on Facebook what that specific thing is.
Yeah.
You've been given an assignment. Go.
Yeah.
Do. Pray. Get on your knees.
Yeah.
Spend 5 minutes doing that. Lift that person up. And that's just an encouragement, I guess, is what I'm hoping that'll come across as.
Okay, Benjamin, you get the mic for the last couple questions. I'm going to wrap us up. Give us a basic truth. What do you know about the Lord that you can pass on to anyone who may be struggling?
There's going to be hard times in anybody's life. There have been the hard times in my life. Don't just hear this podcast and think, oh yeah, this kid's great. No, there's been rough times. And there are gonna be moments where it's gonna feel like God is not there. There's gonna be those moments that it happens to everybody. It doesn't matter if you have a need or something, or if you're struggling with depression, or you just have a disability, or if you're a normal person.
Air
quotations. But there's gonna be those hard times, and what I've learned over the years, especially, I guess the best example was when I was in the Halo and found out I had to be in the hospital for 6 weeks. All those times, was that God is faithful always. He will take care of you, and the thing is that until you do that, you are going to continuously feel like there is a massive weight on you, and that it's never going to come off. You kind of got to just accept that, I'm defeated. This is I cannot handle this on my own. Period. That's it. I can't do it. But I do know that God is in control of all things, because of that, I can put my trust in Him and faith in Him, and just say, Lord, I don't know what's going on during this time. I don't understand why this person is denying me, why I'm getting made fun of at school, why I'm having these horrible thoughts of just doing, just wanting to do things that I will regret doing. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to put my trust in you 100% because I can't do any of it. And I guarantee you it's that's going to change everything. That's going to be there's going to be 2 tons worth on your shoulders that'll just go. They're gone. There you and you'll want to fly like a bird. I mean, well, maybe not instantaneously depending on the situation, but a lot of the times it'll be just this. So not just okay.
What a word.
Yeah, I got that off my shoulders.
Be joyful always.
Yeah.
Pray continually. Give thanks in all circumstances. Not when things are going great. Mm-hmm. Not when things are really awesome, but when things really stink. Give thanks in all circumstances. And that in those valleys when everything stinks and when everything is bad, like Benjamin just so eloquently said, help me be a light here where you have me today.
Yeah.
Because it's about you and it's not about me. The more you can get it off of yourself, the better off you're going to be. That's what I've learned through this experience.
If you ever heard the song Even If by Mercy Me.
Yes. Love it.
Oh man, and that came out actually like at around a time that was like really hard because somebody in like Highlands had passed away just very like in a very
unexpected
way.
In a really bad situation.
And I think we were hearing that song and I didn't entirely understand the impact of it, but I did know there's somebody in my grade that like she was that person's sister, and I don't know, the song is about saying like, I know you're able, I know you can save through the fire with your mighty hand, but even if you don't, my hope is you alone. And that's so true. I know the sorrows and all, and I know the hurt. Yeah, he does. Jesus does. He paid it all. He knows what it's like to just be like totally wrecked. And yeah, I know sorrows, I know the hurt. But all will go away if you just say the word. But even if you don't, he will sometimes not say the word. He will sometimes just be like, I'm not doing that, but it's for the better. Yeah. That's why it then goes, even if you don't, my hope is you alone.
And that's your
faithful,
testimony.
He's been good always. So I will cling to him. So come what may.
And that's your testimony, Benjamin. And we see that. I mean, we see that just the way you live your life.
Yeah.
Thank you for being who you are and allowing the Lord to be who he is through you. It's been a blessing to all of us. Chip wrote an article for us, and we'll put it on christianparenting.org. I would love for y'all to read it. And it talks about Benjamin. And Chip, you remember writing about when y'all went to Hawaii with the band?
Right.
And so
we didn't talk one time about the band. I don't know why that just went.
I know, yes.
We said Boy Scouts of all things.
Boy Scouts and band. Well, band. Shout out to the band.
Yeah.
But you were talking about, Chip, and I'm going to read a quote from the article at the end, but you, and you can add this if you want to, but you had mentioned they were going to hike Diamond Head, right?
Right.
Yep.
And so the band director came to you and said, hey, do we need to make some different accommodations?
Yeah, it was actually the person that was setting up the trip.
The person that was setting up the trip, that
the
was
tour
gonna
guide,
be our
if you
tour
will.
guide, yeah.
Okay.
So what do you guys want to do while they're doing that?
Yeah. And your response was?
Diamond Head. Just
Yeah.
like,
What'd you
We
do?
kind
Yeah.
of learned to not put Benjamin in a box. So we're going to kind of go anyway, and we're just going to see how far he gets.
Yeah.
and we took it all the way.
And
Yeah,
yes,
if you want to read
up
that
there.
article, yeah.
And you made it all the way.
It's just amazing.
And this is what I love, and this is the quote. This person we're talking about, he was talking about Benjamin, and Chip writes, he was born with significant challenges from birth, endured half a dozen surgeries in the first year of his life alone, and well over a dozen surgeries in his 15 years. A toddler who figured out a way to walk when most doctors thought he would never do so. A young boy who shocked me and his buddies and other dads alike when in first grade he hiked up Johnson's Peak at Possum Kingdom without any help. And a young man who could choose to be mad at the world, his lot in life, and at God, but instead says, every day, I'm just happy to be here. And he chooses to be a light for the one most high every day. That's awesome, Benjamin. That's great words by your dad. All right, we're going to wrap it up. Does anybody else have anything they need to say before I wrap us up? Did I miss anything, Benjamin or Chip?
Just remember, pray every day. Lord, can't wait to see what you're going to do next. Can't wait to see how the next unexpected blessing is going to come. And be looking for it. It's going to come. It's going to be there. There might be some times of darkness, but it's going to be there.
That was an awesome word from Chip and Benjamin Waggoner. Thanks so much for joining us today. We hope you walked away encouraged and equipped as you raise your kids in the Lord. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast, and if you enjoyed it, we'd love for you to rate Pardon the Mess and even leave a review. And if you want weekly blogs and other parenting resources we provide, you can subscribe at www.christianparenting.org. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Again, we know your days are busy, so thank you for joining us as we pardon the mess.